Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to this week's book talk video. This week I want to talk about two things. First is my 4 favorite book to film adaptations, and second at the end I'm going to talk about the book club that I mentioned last week. So a bit of a note, none of these books were featured in my favorite book video, but there's just something about them that I love, and even though a lot of them, if not all of them, contain some pretty dark subject matter. And I loved the way that it was translated into film, especially because some of them I couldn't even imagine how they were going to do that. So let's just jump right into it, and my first selection is Revolutionary Road by Richard Yates. Now this book is absolutely heartbreaking. It was written in 1961, I believe, and it's about Frank and April Wheeler. And they are a beautiful, young, talented, married couple. Now, when they first got married, they had all these grand ideas about the kind of life they were going to live. It was going to be artistic and kind of bohemian, and what ends up happening is they start, April gets pregnant and Frank takes a good, stable job with a big company that his dad used to work for, and they move to the suburbs. And that is just about the worst thing that April can think of to happen to her. So she's wildly unhappy, and the story is so beautifully written and so heart-wrenchingly sad. What eventually comes to happen is they just kind of decide, okay, so at this point they've got, I believe, 2 kids, and April's like, okay, you know, they're not babies anymore, let's just do it. Let's pack it all in, go to Paris, live that artist life that we've always wanted to live. I'll be a teacher, you can stay home and focus on your creativity, and it'll be great. And they start to plan for that, and then before it can happen, April finds out that she's pregnant again. So that's all I'm going to say. I don't want to give everything away in case you haven't read the book or seen the film and you would like to. So then I think in 2008, 2007, the film was made, and it starred Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio as Frank and April. And they are genius in it. Kate Winslet brings to life the desperate housewife so well. And my biggest criticism of the film is that they leave out some really, really telling and important scenes that make us feel differently towards Frank than we do in the book. But I will give you a little hint, and one of those very, very pivotal scenes that for whatever reason got cut from the film can be found in the deleted scenes. So if you read the book and then you watch the movie and you think, that's not quite right, check out the deleted scenes. So that's Revolutionary Road by Richard Yates. Next up is American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. Now, this book is about Patrick Bateman. He's 26 years old. He's really rich. He's very successful, and he works on Wall Street by day. And by night, Patrick terrorizes New York City. He tortures and he murders, and he enjoys the brief respite that he has during that, in which he can remove the mask that he has to wear day in and day out, where he pretends that he is a normal human being. The subject matter is incredibly dark, very disturbing, and Patrick Bateman to me is not only an unreliable narrator, because really we never know if these things actually happen or if they just happen in his mind. It's never quite clear. So yeah, not only is he an unreliable narrator, he's actually, he's also incredibly unrelatable as a person. Although I think we can all kind of relate to that notion of having to wear a mask from time to time in certain situations. Certainly not to this degree, hopefully, but you know, it's there. Then in 2000, it became a film starring Christian Bale, and it became a pretty much instant cult classic. Christian Bale is an outstanding Patrick Bateman. And the thing about the book is, excuse me, is the thing about the book is that 90% of it takes place inside Patrick's head, like a lot of just thoughts, and there's not a lot of dialogue, and there's not a lot of interactions with other people. So I thought, you know, how is that going to translate to film? How's that going to happen? But it did, and it was interesting. And if for nothing else, I was very curious on how they were going to make it into a movie. Next is definitely the most uncomfortable and controversial on the list, but also the most beautifully written, and that is Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. Now, Lolita is about Humbert, and he is a middle-aged man who, when looking for a place to live, goes to kind of interview at this home of this woman. I think her name is Charlotte. For some reason, her name is completely lost on me, but I'm pretty sure it's Charlotte. So she has a 12-year-old daughter named Dolores, and he goes and he's kind of annoyed with the woman when he's listening to her talk, but then he catches sight of Dolores and he is instantly, disturbingly obsessed with her. So he takes the place, and he eventually marries the mother, so that he doesn't have to be away from Dolores. Eventually, the mother catches on, and she is livid, and she storms out of the house, and she's about to go tell the police about his intentions and thoughts and fantasies about her 12-year-old daughter. And as she does, she's killed. So Humbert's delighted because now he is the guardian of Dolores, who he calls Lolita. This was made into 2 films. Stanley Kubrick made it in 1962, and then it was made again in 1997. The 1997 film starred Jeremy Irons as Humbert, Dominique Swain as Lolita, and Melanie Griffith as the mom. And very dark, but the film is good, but it's nowhere near as good as the book. The things that this book gets into and the way that it's written is so he's just such a writer. It's really difficult to explain. If I were to suggest one of the versions of the film, I would go with the Jeremy Irons version from '97. And I mean, that word gets thrown around so much now, Lolita, usually to describe a young girl who's very sexual, which is disturbing. But it gives an interesting look at the mind of a man like Humbert. So now for the most lighthearted selection of the night, we have Horns by Joe Hill. Now, this was recently made into a film, I think in 2013, and it stars Daniel Radcliffe. Now, Horns is about a young man named Ig Parrish, and his girlfriend has recently been murdered, and he's very upset about it. And on the 1-year anniversary of her death, he goes out he gets wildly drunk and partakes in a ton of debauchery, and he wakes up the next morning with a terrible headache, a terrible hangover and headache, and he finds that he is growing horns out of his head, like the devil. Now, this sounds completely outrageous, and it is, but it's also so hilarious, despite the fact that there's a lot of sadness in it and whatnot. It's also wickedly funny. So what happens is, after he discovers the horns, he discovers that he's got these weird powers now. Like when he goes to the doctor to find out why that's happening, the doctor starts telling him all kinds of really weird things that are the kind of things that, you know, if you had done them or said them, you'd keep it to yourself. And then he notices that everywhere he goes, people are telling him all kinds of crazy personal secrets that they would otherwise never speak out loud. So he decides he's going to use this newfound power to find who murdered his girlfriend. And it's, like I said, wickedly funny. And Daniel Radcliffe in the film is excellent. It's such a great adaptation of the book. And I would definitely recommend it. It's beautifully shot. And the book is wonderfully written. Joe Hill is one of my favorites. And yeah, you really can't go wrong with this, especially if you like a bit of dark humor. So those are the 4 I wanted to talk about today. Of course, I've got other favorites like the Harry Potter books and films. Those are, you know, one of my all-time favorites. But it's such a, you know, such an easy choice. Like, it's been talked about to death. There's nothing else to say about the Harry Potter series or the Hunger Games or the Lord of the Rings or all these just grand, gorgeous book-to-film adaptations. I thought I would take it a little twistier and go a little darker. So I hope you enjoyed that. Now, I did want to talk about the book club that I mentioned last week. I'm going to give it 1 more week. So if you are interested in participating in that, please subscribe and just let me know. And then next week what I'll do is I'll announce the book that we're going to read. And then I'll give us, say, 4 or 5 weeks, enough time to make sure everyone can get a copy of the book and read it. And then I'm still working out the details a bit on how we can discuss it, but for sure there's a way. And we can talk about it together and enjoy it. And the way that I was thinking about doing it is I might do a video, and then maybe whoever wants to participate could kind of do reaction videos with their own opinions and their own thoughts, and I could post questions that we could all answer and talk about and just get into it. And then what we could do if we wanted is we could take turns picking the books, or I can continue picking them if you would prefer that. Whatever you want, we'll work it all out. So yeah, if you want to participate, subscribe and just let me know. And yeah, I'll be back next week with the selection that I've picked. So until then, I hope you guys are having a great week. Thanks again to everyone who's subscribed already. That means just so much to me. And I'll talk to you guys on Friday. Bye.